Rich CEO is saved by Black Housekeeper. She noticed symptoms that had gone unnoticed. Late afternoon in Atlanta. Light rain sketching lines on the glass of the 78th floor. Cold office lighting, the smell of burnt coffee and disinfectant. The mirrored hallway reveals a contrast. Italian shoes rushing to a meeting. A woman in a navy blue uniform, black gloves. A spotless cleaning cart, and a beauty that makes the reflection seem too small to hold her. She is Simone Harris. High cheekbones, golden almond skin glowing under white light, hazel brown eyes. That read details like they read intentions. Curly hair tamed in an elegant bun. Poised, quiet. Invisible, even when she shouldn't be. The executive elevator arrives with a dry ding. The doors open like curtains. Ethan Cole steps in without waiting. Deep blue suit, crisp shirt, a watch worth a car. Tall, broad-shouldered, expensive bergamot cologne. Phone vibrating. Nonstop. An assistant rushes in behind him. Mr. Cole, the New York Fund is already in the room. The stream starts in 3 minutes. I know, he replies, not looking at anyone. Simone steps discreetly back, resting the cart against the polished steel wall. The elevator begins to rise. The panel lights flicker. And something in her sharpens. The reading. Cold sweat on his forehead. A nearly invisible tremor in his fingers. Short, uneven breathing. Ethan's right hand brushes over his sternum like trying to remove a weight. Breathing. 3 short blocks, 1 long, she thinks. The sound of air not finding space. The assistant notices Simone's presence, and the first humiliation comes fast and sharp. You should be using the service. Elevator. She holds his gaze. Breathes. Ethan, impatient, rubs his temple. The light on his smartwatch flashes for a moment. 118 BPM. Spikes. Uneven rhythm. Sir, sorry to interrupt, she says, calm but firm. You're pale. The sweat. And the breathing. You need to sit for a minute. The assistant chuckles nervously. Sit where? On the mop bucket? Ethan finally looks at her. Steel blue eyes, impatient and for a second lost. I'm fine. Thank you, he says curtly. You don't look it, she insists, not lowering her voice. Hold the handrail. Loosen your tie. Inhale through your nose, count to 4, exhale on 6. I don't need breathing coaching. He searches for the word, stumbles on his pride. Facility staff. The air gets even colder. The elevator jolts slightly at the 79th. Ethan wavers. 2 centimeters. Just enough for Simone to take a half step forward, steadying the cart with her other hand, ready to catch him without touching. I'm fine, he repeats, but his right hand finds the handrail like someone finding a shore. She sees what no one wants to see. The coloring around his lips, the metallic sheen of the sweat, the microspasm in the neck muscle. A memory hits. Her mother in the living room, 2019, pain radiating and no one listening. Listen, Simone says, softer now, intimate and urgent, like someone speaking about a life that can still be saved. If you start feeling tingling, in your left arm or your jaw, don't push through. Sit. I'll make the call right now. The assistant steps in, annoyed. Let's go, Mr. Cole. Global transmission. Now. Ethan inhales too shallow. Loosens his tie a half centimeter. As if following orders without admitting it. His eyes meet hers for a second. He sees the steadiness, the beauty impossible to ignore, and he doubts himself. What's your name? He asks, quickly. Simone. A beat on the security guard's radio echoes down the approaching hallway. Medical team is standing by on the ground floor, a distant voice says. The assistant signals cut. I said I'm fine, Ethan repeats. Louder now for everyone, maybe even for himself. The elevator announces, 80th. The doors. Open to a world of glass, cameras, and expensive words. The boardroom is a glowing aquarium, screens with graphs, the company logo pulsing, 3 cameras ready for the live stream. Important people with trained smiles. Rain becomes the background. Simone stays at the door's edge. The floor security guard delivers the second blow, cold. Unauthorized staff can't pass. She doesn't move back. "Sir," she calls, firm but calm. Ethan pauses in the doorway. "If your vision blurs, if you feel pressure in your chest." "Stop. 2 minutes now could give you years later." He hesitates. The assistant places a hand on his shoulder. The press is already connected. "Mr. Cole, we need you on stage," someone calls from inside. He picks the image, a controlled half smile, CEO style. "If you bring this up again during work hours," he says without looking at her, "you'll be reported." The words. Cut. Humiliate. But she doesn't lower her chin. "Then report me for wanting you to survive your next meeting." A full second of silence. Rain. Lights. The distant sound of a microphone being tested. Ethan steps inside. The doors begin to close. At that moment, a wet shine runs down the side of his neck. Cold sweat, thicker now. His right hand returns to his chest. The watch buzzes with a subtle alert. Simone stops the doors with her gloved hand, a move that could cost her the job. The security guard is already approaching. "Let go of the door, please." She swallows her fear. Pulls the phone from her uniform pocket. Thumb over 911. "Ma'am," the guard growls, "this could get you fired today." The elevator beeps, impatient. Inside the room, the countdown appears on the screens. 10.9. 8. Simone looks again, not at the job, not at the suit, but at the man about to launch himself into the abyss of denial. And she dials. "Emergency. What's your—" The glass aquarium doors seal, muffling the sound. The assistant throws a cold glance at Simone. On stage, Ethan forces a smile. Behind it, his hand trembles. It's about the CEO of Cole Enterprises, she whispers as the guard gets closer. "He could be at risk right now." The call stays on speaker. The guard reaches for the phone. Inside the aquarium screen, a graph appears with the word Lev. Someone's heart somewhere races a bit more. The call is live, the guard trying to grab the phone, and Ethan about to go on air while his body says something else entirely. Who loses first, her job or his denial? Before we continue, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love knowing how far our stories reach. And if you're into emotional love stories, subscribe to the channel. That helps this project grow and motivates me to bring you even more stories. The emergency call was still flashing on Simone's phone screen when the security guard tried to reach her. The glass aquarium had sealed shut, isolating the stage where Ethan, flawless on the outside, forced a smile. The dispatcher's voice echoed on speaker. "What's the exact address?" Simone answered quickly, dodging the guard's hand. "Cole Enterprises, 78th floor, boardroom. Possible medical emergency involving the CEO." The guard lowered his voice, threatening, "Hang up now and get back to your floor." She ended the call reluctantly, not out of fear, but because she saw Ethan walking proudly to the podium and understood that in that moment he had chosen image over everything. Before the doors fully closed, she spoke firmly from the hallway. "Please see a doctor today." From the stage, he gave a condescending half smile. "I'll take care of it when I have time." The next morning, the scolding came by email. Avoid interference during executive events. Escalate only through internal channels. Signed. By HR. Simone took a deep breath and stayed on routine. In the steel mirror of the service elevator, she tied her bun precisely and carried on. No one needed to know how much that response hurt. No one needed to see. 3 days later, Atlanta was still under rain. On the 80th floor, the air smelled of strong coffee and new carpet. The meeting with New York investors brought together executives, lawyers, and a brand consultant. Screens displayed aggressive charts. The glass walls reflected a gray skyline split by distant lightning. Simone passed silently with her cart. Just steps away from the room, technical access badge clipped to her chest, invisible to those who didn't want to see her dot inside. Ethan opened his laptop, adjusted his tie, and began his speech. Quarter results exceeded expectations. Operational margin. He began, facing the camera with trained confidence. But his smartwatch flashed again. His pulse spiked. A subtle tremor ran down his right hand. The consultant whispered, "Breathe." Ethan tried to go on. "Our leadership," his voice broke on a dry note. 1 second of silence felt like a minute. Simone heard the sound of a glass hitting the table. Then, a chair dragging. People moving in a rush. Instinct kicked in. She left the cart in the hallway and opened the glass door without asking permission. Who let this employee in? A director. Snapped, irritated dot, she was already beside Ethan in 2 steps. His steel blue eyes, now clouded, struggled to focus. Cold sweat traced along his hairline. "Mr. Cole, look at me," Simone said firmly, in a low voice. "Sit, now." I'm fine," he tried, but his body said otherwise. His hands reached for the table, fingers trembling. A short blackout loomed. "Cut the stream," the brand consultant shouted. The screens froze. The company logo paused. In midair, Simone pulled out the chair, guided Ethan by the shoulders without hesitation, and helped him sit. She loosened his tie with a precise motion. "Inhale through your nose, 4 counts. Exhale on 6. Let's go." He followed almost instinctively. 1, 2, 3, 4. "That's it. Again." A director tried to move her away. "You shouldn't be touching the CEO." She held his gaze, unmoving. "Call emergency. Now." "We have internal protocol," the lawyer replied, tense. "Then activate internal protocol and 911, she sighed, pulling the chair closer so he could lean forward slightly. "Mr. Cole, any tingling in your arm? Jaw?" "Left arm. Feels heavy," he whispered. His face lost color. "It's okay. Stay with me. Look at me." The same security guard from the other day entered with a support team and a defibrillator, AED, from the hallway. "Clear the area. Place the IED next to him, but don't power it on yet," Simone directed, without shouting. "Low." Blood pressure? Water? An analyst brought a glass. Ethan's hands couldn't hold it. Simone held it for him, pressed it gently to his lips. Just a little, very slowly. He took 2 sips, closed his eyes. His breathing returned to a less chaotic rhythm. The smartwatch beeped again. 124 BPM, irregular. In-house medical team on the way, someone announced. And 911? Simone. Pressed. "We already called," the security guard replied, voice less harsh. The sky outside darkened even more. Thunder rolled. The overhead lights felt colder. On the table, the boardroom documents were scattered, perfect numbers disrupted by a second of humanity. "Why are you here?" Ethan murmured, between breaths. "Because I promised my mother I'd never ignore what the body's asking for," Simone said, not taking her eyes off him. "And I learned the hard way." Paramedics arrived swiftly. Dark uniforms, red medical bag, a portable monitor. "Who assisted him first?" asked the paramedic. "I did," Simone said. Cold sweat, irregular breathing, tremors in the fingers, complaint of heaviness in the left arm. The paramedic nodded. Good, we need space. She connected the monitor, took vitals, and spoke with professional clarity. Irregular rhythm and fluctuating blood pressure. We're transporting. Ethan tried to stand, old pride. The paramedic gently held him down. No heroics today, sir. He looked, for Simone's eyes, past the team's shoulders. You saw it first. I just listened to what no one else wanted to hear, she replied calmly as the stretcher was being prepped. The brand consultant whispered in distress to the lawyer, if this leaks, the stock will drop after hours. The lawyer was already typing on his phone. Control the narrative, now. The glass door opened to make room for the stretcher. Simone stepped back, removing her gloves. Suddenly, the HR manager appeared in the hallway with a printed document. Controlled voice, tight smile. Simone Harris? We need to talk about conduct in restricted areas. And about the emergency call from 3 days ago. Simone lifted her chin. I did what was right. Maybe, the manager said. But there are processes and consequences. The team was already wheeling the stretcher toward the elevator. Ethan, pale, turned his face sideways and searched for Simone one last time. Come with us. The paramedic added, if she was the first responder, she can help with history. The HR manager cut in cold. She's not authorized to accompany. The elevator beeped. The paramedics waited for a decision. The guard looked from the manager to Simone, unsure. Rain pounded the glass. For a moment, everything was suspended. A man's life, a woman's job, a company's reputation. Simone took a deep breath, stepped toward the stretcher. I'm going. The HR manager held out the document like a blade. If you go, you'll be formally suspended. The elevator doors opened. The stretcher slid inside. Ethan's gaze, finally humbled, locked onto hers. Please. Simone hesitated just 1 second, long enough to feel the weight of the choice, and crossed the yellow line on the floor. Doors began to close, leaving behind the HR manager with the suspension paper in hand, the consultant calculating damage, and a silence that spoke louder than any official memo. The elevator descends. The heart monitor beeps. And outside, a journalist receives an anonymous alert on his phone. CEO of Coal Enterprises suffers medical episode during investor meeting. Simone risks her job to accompany Ethan to the hospital while a potential PR crisis begins to unfold outside. Who gets there first? The ambulance at the ER or the headlines? The emergency elevator opened with a gust of cold air. Outside. Atlanta's night was heavy, rain reflecting the red and blue lights of the ambulance. The sound of the heart monitor blended with the soft squeak of the stretcher wheels on the hospital's waxed floors. Simone, still in her damp uniform, walked beside him, holding her company badge like a fragile passport. The automatic doors opened into a white, cold hallway lit by lights that seemed to cast no shadows. 2 nurses took over the stretcher. A doctor in a blue coat approached, clipboard in hand, voice firm. Male, 38, chest pain, arrhythmia, cold sweat, tingling in the left arm. Who was with him at the time? I was, Simone replied without hesitation. Symptoms started before the meeting. Irregular breathing pattern, finger tremors, pale coloring around the lips. The doctor looked at her, surprised by the precision. Are you a doctor? No, I just learned by watching. Ethan was taken into an emergency treatment room. The doors closed, leaving Simone alone in the hallway, soaked, heart still racing. A nurse rushed by, pushing an oxygen cart. The distant sound of medical voices was muffled by the frosted glass wall. Minutes later, the doctor reappeared. He was lucky. He was about to have a serious collapse caused by an undiagnosed arrhythmia. If he hadn't been brought in when he was, it could have turned fatal. Simone breathed a sigh of relief. So, he's going to be okay? He'll need tests, treatment, and serious lifestyle changes. But yes, for now, he's stable. You saved him. The doctor returned to the room. Simone stood still, letting those 3 words echo, "You saved him." But before she could allow herself a smile, the door opened again. It was Ethan, seated on an adjusted stretcher, already in a hospital gown. His face was still pale, but with a cold gleam in his eyes. He motioned for her to come closer. Simone took a few steps, unsure whether she'd find gratitude or disapproval. "They told me," he began, voice low, "that if it hadn't been for you, I might be dead now." It was just a matter of noticing what was happening and acting. Quickly, she replied. He kept his eyes on her for a moment, as if weighing every word. "Funny. You saw what my personal doctors didn't." "It's not funny, Mr. Cole. It's alarming." Ethan let out a short laugh, laced with condescension. "You have to understand. It's not common for a cleaning staff member to diagnose." "A CEO. I didn't diagnose," Simone said firmly. "I observed. Listening to the body doesn't require a degree, it requires attention." Silence stretched for a few seconds. He studied her as if trying to decode something hidden. "Maybe you're right," he said, though the tone still carried skepticism. "Still, I don't understand how someone from your department would know this." The sentence hung in the air, laced with subtle prejudice. Simone held her ground. "The heart doesn't see departments, Mr. Cole. It can stop on anyone." Before Ethan could respond, the doctor returned, holding preliminary results. Confirmed. Supraventricular. Tachycardia episode. Quick intervention was crucial. Ethan nodded briefly in thanks. As the doctor stepped away, he turned back to Simone. "So, thank you." It was a dry, almost procedural thank you, but his eyes followed her with a mix of doubt and unease. As if part of him wanted to believe her and another part refused to accept he owed his life to someone so far outside his world. A nurse came in to adjust the equipment. In the background, a monitor beeped with a steady rhythm. Ethan turned his face to the window, watching the city lights reflect off the wet glass. Simone was about to leave when she heard him say, without looking at her, "Don't tell this story at the company. Some things don't need to spread." She paused at the door. "Some things need to be remembered, especially when they save lives." And she walked out, leaving him alone with his heavy breathing and the uncomfortable feeling that the woman he underestimated carried far more than he was ready to admit. As Simone left the hospital, she received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end said, "We know you were with Mr. Cole. This may be of interest to certain people." The sound of rain that had followed Simone to the hospital had vanished. Now, what echoed through the glass corridors of Cole Enterprises was something more corrosive, whispers. She noticed when conversation shifted tone as she approached. These weren't curious glances, they were calculating, assessing her like a misplaced piece. In the break room on the 78th floor, 2 sharply dressed employees whispered near the coffee machine. "They say she threw herself in front of the cameras to get attention," one said, stirring sugar. The other smirked. "Or maybe she exaggerated to play the hero of the moment. Ethan doesn't usually let just anyone get that close." Simone entered just to grab a glass of water. The silence was immediate, as if the words had been swallowed. She didn't react, but she felt the weight of that pause hang in the air. Later, in the glass-walled office on the 80th floor, Ethan met with his trusted advisors. Michael, the CFO, in a gray suit and cold tone, flipped through a report. "You have to understand, Ethan. This kind of story attracts media attention. And if she knows how to leverage it? Leverage how? He asked, still wearing a closed expression. Michael shrugged. Turn a health episode into social capital. I've seen it happen. Employees who use a moment to secure benefits, promotions, or protection. Beside him, Olivia, the company's image consultant, crossed her legs and spoke in a rehearsed tone. The version going around is that she was decisive, but no one's confirmed anything officially. You didn't even notice the symptoms yourself, right? How would she have? Ethan stayed silent, fingers tapping on the table. The memory of Simone's steady gaze at the hospital mixed with the discomfort of being saved by someone outside his circle. Maybe it was just luck, he muttered. Meanwhile, in the maintenance department, Simone was organizing her supplies. Her closest colleague, Carmen, approached in a low voice. They're talking about you, saying you made it up. Bet it was. Just a coincidence, Simone sighed, still cleaning a shelf. Let them talk. It's not that simple, Simone. Here, once a rumor starts, it doesn't stop. She looked up. I know. I've seen it destroy good people. At the end of the day, Simone was called into the HR manager's office. The space was cold, minimalist, with the smell of freshly printed paper. The manager, always with a professional smile, invited her to sit. We just want to clarify a few points about what happened last week. Some people said you dramatized the situation. Dramatized? Simone leaned forward. Mr. Cole was about to collapse. I acted. That's not dramatization. That's fact. The manager kept a neutral tone. Of course, but there are different perceptions. And Mr. Cole himself. Well, he prefers to keep the matter discreet. The next day, Simone crossed paths with Ethan in the hallway. He slowed his pace. I heard some people are questioning what happened. They are, she replied, looking him in the eyes. He looked away as if searching for an exit. Maybe. It's better to let this go. For everyone's sake. For everyone's, or for yours. He didn't answer. He just kept walking, leaving behind a silence thick with meaning. The following morning, Simone found a brown envelope on her cleaning cart. Inside, a printed photo from the day of the incident. And on the back, a handwritten message. Not everyone is on your side. The envelope was still in Simone's bag when the next day began. She worked in silence, trying to ignore the chill that message had left behind. But before lunch, she received a short message on her company phone. Report to room 82B subject. Internal restructuring. Room 82B was on the executive floor, where the carpet was thicker and the windows displayed the city like an expensive painting. Ethan was at the table alongside the HR manager and Michael, the CFO. The atmosphere was rehearsed, each person with a controlled tone. Simone. Ethan began, his voice formal, almost colorless. We appreciate what you did. However, given recent circumstances and to optimize operations, we've decided to transfer you to a different department. She frowned. A different department? The HR manager joined in, sliding a document across the table. Cleaning and maintenance of the Central Archives. It's an important space, but less exposed. Exposed to what? Simone asked, her voice steady. Michael adjusted his suit. To sensitive situations. Your frequent presence on the executive floors has generated comments, and we want to protect you. Simone looked at Ethan, searching for something beyond that corporate mask. Protect or hide? He kept his gaze down for a moment. It's temporary. Temporary until everyone forgets I was there when you couldn't breathe? She replied, not raising her voice, but each word cutting the air. The silence that followed was heavier than any explanation. The HR manager pushed the document closer. To her, the transfer is effective immediately. Sign here. Simone picked up the pen. Her fingers trembled not from fear, but from restrained indignation. She signed without looking at the paper, took her copy, lifted her chin, and said, "Simply, I know my worth, even when you pretend not to." In the Central Archives, the air was colder and the smell of old paper clung to the walls. There were no windows facing the city, only high shelves and narrow aisles. She began reorganizing boxes, thinking about the past few weeks, the elevator, the hospital, the rumors, and now, the silent exile. Later that afternoon, Carmen appeared with a worried look. "I heard. This is unfair." "It's not unfair, Carmen. It's fear. Fear of someone who saw too much. And you're going to accept it?" Simone placed a heavy box on the floor. "For now. But don't mistake silence for defeat." As she left the building that night, Simone noticed a black car parked across the street. Inside, a man in dark sunglasses watched her closely. When she stared back, the car slowly pulled away as if to make sure she knew she was being watched. Winter had arrived in Atlanta. The mirrored glass of Cole Enterprises reflected a gray sky, and cold air swept in through the revolving doors. With each hurried employee, months had passed since Simone had been reassigned to the archives. She now worked nearly invisible between narrow aisles and dusty shelves, while the world of suits and contracts above kept spinning. Ethan remained at the top, physically recovered, but still on a strict medical routine. He had managed to keep the incident out of the press, just as planned. Until that morning, the executive committee was meeting in the Oval Room on the 80th floor. The smell of strong coffee filled the space, and confidential documents were laid out in black folders with red labels. Ethan stood with his back to the door, reviewing numbers on his tablet, when a conversation between two executives near the window caught his attention. "Did you read the confidential medical report from the hospital?" asked the first, a tall man with gray hair, voice low but clear enough to carry across the room. The second, younger and with a distinct accent, replied, "I did. It's impressive." The doctor wrote that without the initial information given to the paramedics, the diagnosis would have been delayed. That could have killed him within hours. Ethan looked up, masking his interest. The gray-haired man continued, "And you know who gave that information? It wasn't any personal assistant. It was that employee. What's her name again?" "Harris." The younger man confirmed, "Simone Harris." She described the symptoms so precisely that the emergency team already knew which test to prioritize before even getting to the hospital. Ethan's heart sped up, not from illness, but something else, a sudden weight of truth. The voices around him sounded like a distant echo. He remembered the moment, but never knew that that specific description had determined the right treatment and saved his life. If it weren't for that, he could have had a fatal collapse on the way. The gray-haired executive concluded, before realizing Ethan was nearby. "Ah, Mr. Cole, we didn't know you were listening." Ethan only nodded, trying to keep composed. But inside, a storm of memories pulled at him. The elevator, the shortness of breath, Simone's steady gaze, her firm touch loosening his tie. And then, the unjust transfer. The meeting went on, but the words lost their meaning. When everyone left, Ethan stayed seated, the confidential document now in his hands. There it was, in cold, objective letters, the sentence that silenced him: immediate intervention and precise symptom description by Simone Harris were crucial to preventing deterioration and patient fatality. He closed the report slowly, like holding a secret heavier than any contract he'd ever signed. For a moment, he stared at his reflection in the glass wall. His own image looked different. Michael came in to collect some papers. "Everything okay, Ethan?" Ethan didn't answer right away. "Michael, Why didn't anyone tell me this before? The CFO looked away. Maybe, because some thought it wasn't relevant to internal decisions. Not relevant? Ethan repeated, voice low and loaded. We're talking about my life. Michael shrugged, uneasy. Sometimes it's more convenient for certain stories not to gain traction. When he was alone again, Ethan clenched the document in his hands. The memory of his last conversation with Simone, when she asked if the silence was for everyone's good or just his, burned in his mind. Now he knew the answer. Ethan stood, determined to find her. But when he called the extension for the Central Archive, a voice replied, "She's no longer here. She resigned this morning." The echo of the words, "she resigned this morning," still pounded in Ethan's mind as he left the building. Atlanta's evening traffic blurred past the windshield, but his focus was on an address scribbled in the corner of an old document, the name of a third-party cleaning company. That's how he found her, hours later, alone in a commercial building. Downtown, already working the night shift, the lobby was quiet, lit by yellow lights casting long shadows on the marble. The rhythmic sound of a mop sliding across the floor guided Ethan to her. Simone stood with her back to him, hair neatly tied, simple uniform hugging her slender frame. And even under the harsh lighting, her presence remained untouched, not just physically, but in posture, in dignity. He watched for a few seconds. Without the weight of corporate eyes and the power environment, he noticed details he'd ignored before, the precision in her movements, the silent care for every corner, and the watchful gaze that, even alone, scanned the room like it was something to protect. "Simone," he called, voice low, almost hesitant. She stopped, turned slowly. Her hazel eyes met his without rush, without visible emotion. "Mr. Cole, can I speak with you? If it's quick. I'm working." He took a deep breath, stepped forward. "I found out." "What you did?" "At the hospital." "That symptom description. It's what saved my life." Simone kept a neutral expression. "You didn't need to find out, sir." "I've known since that day. I didn't know at the time. And he paused, searching for the right words. "I was wrong with you. I underestimated what you did. I pushed you away, when I should have thanked you." A heavy silence settled between them. The distant sound of an elevator closing upstairs echoed through the lobby. Simone leaned her mop handle against the bucket and stepped toward him, her voice calm but firm. "I didn't save you to be rewarded, but I expected respect." Ethan swallowed hard. For the first time, the words hit without a shield. "I know. And there's nothing I can say now that will undo what I did. But I wanted to apologize, looking you in the eyes." She crossed her arms, weighing each word. "Apologies don't change what people choose to believe. And inside that company, they chose to see me as a threat, not someone who acted out of humanity." He took another step, his voice quieter. "I want to make it right." "And why now?" she asked, lifting her chin. "Why not when I needed it?" Ethan breathed deeply. "Because only now can I see you. Without the walls I built myself." The sound of distant thunder filled the silence. Simone looked at him for a few more seconds, as if judging whether what she heard was truth or just another strategy from a man used to controlling the narrative. "I don't know if I believe you, Mr. Cole," she said at last. "But I do know that next time your body speaks, I hope you listen, before someone has to scream for help." She turned back to work, spinning the mop in the bucket like the conversation was over. Ethan stood there for a few more seconds, watching her before walking away. But as he approached the door, Simone's phone buzzed in her pocket. She answered with a simple hello, and upon hearing the voice on the other end, her expression shifted, a mix of surprise and unease. The mysterious voice said, "Simone, we have information about that day, and about who didn't want you to be there." The mysterious call Simone had received during the night shift echoed in her mind, but there was no time to figure it out. 2 days later, Atlanta woke up to headlines flooding TV screens and news sites. Coal Enterprises under suspicion of racial discrimination. Comments exploded on social media. Old photos of the building, meeting clips, and even blurry images of Ethan circulated with fiery captions. Journalists camped outside the headquarters, microphones ready to capture any word that might confirm the scandal. Amid the chaos, Simone sat in a modest downtown cafe waiting for someone who claimed to have important information. A tall, thin man in a wrinkled blazer and a loose tie approached with a calculated smile. "Are you Simone Harris?" She nodded, holding his gaze. "I'm Daniel Knox, investigative reporter. I'm working on this story about Coal Enterprises and Mr. Cole." "And what does that have to do with me?" "Everything," he said, lowering his voice. "Internal sources tell me you witnessed behavior that could confirm discriminatory practices. If you speak up, we can expose it." Simone frowned. "And what if I say I didn't see any of that?" Daniel leaned across the table. "Then maybe you didn't notice. Or maybe you didn't get what you deserved for saving his life. We can fix that. We publish your version. You receive compensation, generous compensation." She took a deep breath, the muffled cafe sounds blending with the disturbing buzz of his offer. "Are you offering me money to lie?" "I'm offering an opportunity to tell your story with the right details." Simone placed both hands on the table, every word cutting like a blade. "I don't need money bought with lies. What happened between me and Ethan Cole had nothing to do with skin color. It had to do with power, pride, and bad decisions. But I won't invent racism where I didn't see it, because that robs the voice of those who truly suffer from it." Daniel leaned back, his smile fading. "You could take down a powerful man. Think about it." "You think about it," Simone replied. "If that's what you call journalism, you're in the wrong job." She stood, grabbing her bag. As she walked out, she felt the weight of stares in the cafe, two men in the corner watching too closely. When Simone stepped outside, the cold air hit her face, but it didn't shake the feeling that the conversation was far from over. Hours later, in Ethan's office, Olivia, the image consultant, rushed in with her phone. "A new article just dropped. Says a key employee refused to comment on the accusations." Ethan looked up. "Who?" Olivia hesitated. "Simone Harris." He leaned back in his chair, absorbing the news. A mix of relief and unease crossed his face. "Even after everything, she didn't throw me under the bus." That night, when Simone got home, she found an envelope under the door. Inside was a single sheet of paper with magazine-cut letters forming the message, "Next time, speak or regret it." The threatening note under Simone's door lingered in her thoughts, but she stayed silent. She told no one, not even Carmen. Meanwhile, the scandal against Coal Enterprises grew, and the press began demanding an official statement from Ethan. That morning, the company's main auditorium was packed. Cameras, journalists, employees all waited for the CEO's statement. Ethan entered, sharp in a navy blue suit, but with a more human, less guarded demeanor. As he approached the podium, he paused. His eyes scanned the crowd until they found Simone, seated quietly at the back, wearing a simple badge. Sitting tall, he took a deep breath and began. "In recent days, Coal Enterprises has faced serious accusations. And among those accusations, the name of one employee, Simone Harris, was mentioned in an unfair and malicious way." The room fell silent. "Let me be clear. This woman not only acted with integrity by refusing to spread lies about me and this company, she literally saved my life." Some heads turned toward Simone. She kept a calm expression, but her heart raced. Ethan continued. Simone didn't seek fame, didn't ask for anything in return. She did what was right, even when it would have been easier to stay quiet or even hurt me. That's why starting today, she officially leaves the maintenance department and assumes an administrative position in our internal relations program. A murmur swept through the room. Simone blinked slowly, as if needing to confirm what she had just heard. Olivia, the image consultant, looked surprised but didn't object. Ethan concluded, Simone, your ability to observe, to listen, and to act with empathy is rare. And it's exactly what this company needs to become better than it's ever been. After the speech, while cameras still flashed, he made his way to the back of the auditorium. Simone stood, unsure whether to smile or hold her ground. You? Didn't need to do that, she said when he stopped in front of her. Yes, I did, Ethan replied. You deserve to be seen for who you truly are. In the days that followed, Simone began her new role. The office wasn't large, but it had a window overlooking the city, something she'd never had before. Soon, her natural intelligence and direct style earned her respect from colleagues and solved long-standing conflicts with ease. Ethan, whenever he could, stopped by to ask how things were going. Over time, their formal conversations turned more personal. He asked about her childhood, how she learned to recognize signs of illness. Slowly, she shared stories about her mother, about life in the South, and about how she believed each person carried a tone of voice in their body, and that learning to hear that tone could save lives. One night, while reviewing a report together, the office lights flickered and went out for a few seconds, leaving them in the soft glow of emergency lamps. Ethan looked at her, and the silence stretched. I thought I'd never trust someone like this again, he said, and I thought I'd never respect you again, Simone replied, not breaking eye contact. What began then wasn't immediate nor declared, but it was there a thread of genuine affection growing. Unplanned by either of them. One Friday afternoon, Simone received an email with no sender listed. In the body of the message, only a sentence. Your new position won't last long, and neither will he. The anonymous email still echoed in Simone's mind, but no attack ever came. Time passed, and slowly the storm of intrigue, threats, and headlines gave way to a new chapter. Months later, the clear spring sky lit up the Atlanta Community Center, where a nonprofit hosted a large benefit event to support Black women entrepreneurs. The auditorium was full. Booths with handmade products, discussion panels, and conversation circles filled the space with voices and laughter. In one corner, a large banner read, Building the Future with Courage and Dignity. Simone, wearing a deep blue dress and her hair in defined waves, organized a small brand showcase alongside volunteers. Her presence radiated confidence, the same that had once been ignored, now recognized and admired. Ethan arrived soon after, skipping formalities and helping unload supply boxes. He wore a simple white shirt with rolled-up sleeves, without the keeves barrier of a suit. By Simone's side, he spoke with the entrepreneurs, asked about their projects, and listened with genuine attention. At the main moment of the event, a makeshift stage was set up for speeches. The host called Ethan, and he stepped up to moderate applause. Not everyone there knew who he was. He adjusted the microphone, looked out at the audience, and for a moment, locked eyes with Simone. For a long time, he began, I believed wealth was measured in numbers, contracts, and assets. But I've learned it through the hardest way that there are kinds of wealth you can't buy, and they're far more valuable. The room fell silent. Ethan paused, keeping his tone calm but filled with truth. The greatest wealth I've ever gained wasn't saving my company. It was gaining someone who taught me that true greatness lies in seeing beyond appearances. someone who acted in my best interest when no one was watching, and who showed me that character is the foundation of any legacy worth leaving behind. People followed his gaze to Simone. She didn't flinch or lower her head. On the contrary, she held his gaze, feeling the sincerity in his words. After the speech, he stepped down from the stage and walked over to her. "Can I say I'm proud?" "Of you?" he asked, half smiling. "You can," Simone replied, "but know that I'm proud of you too. Not everyone is capable of change." Ethan extended his hand, not as a business gesture, but as a sign of respect. She shook it, and in that handshake was everything: the weight of the past, the strength of what they had overcome, and the beginning of something that went beyond titles or contracts. As the event continued, Simone walked between the tables, helping other women showcase their products. Ethan watched her, and for a moment, he didn't see the employee who once saved his life. He saw the woman who taught him that real value isn't measured by job titles or wealth, but by the impact we leave in others' paths. A person's worth isn't in the position they hold or the fortune they possess, but in the character and courage to do what's right even when no one's watching. At the end of the event, while packing her things, Simone found a small black box on her chair. Inside was a wristwatch identical to the one Ethan wore on the day of the incident, but stopped exactly at the time he nearly collapsed in the elevator. So, what did you think of this story? I'd really love to hear your opinion. Leave a comment from 0 to 10 telling us how much you liked it. Hit the like button if it moved you, share it so more people can discover it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories. And before you go, I've picked another emotional story that's sure to touch your heart even more.